Hello everybody, in this video we're going to be checking out how to paint an effective quick scheme for force-grown drones for the Spire's faction from Conquest. And this is really just a matter of how quick can you get a miniature done and put it down on the table and look effective when it's all ranked up with everybody else. And I think you're going to like the end result. I'm not going to flash it too much under camera because that'll just ruin the whole thing. Remember, these videos are contrast focused, speed focused, and making things look effective without putting a lot of time and effort into it, especially if you're going to be looking at doing something big, you know, like a Tale of Four Gamers or whatever is happening. I don't know, I'm being told to paint stuff and I'm painting stuff. So, remember, this is all about speed and effectiveness, so colour choice and all that is more important than the techniques used, hence we're going with a lot of contrasts on the miniature. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this one. Let's get stuck in. So to get started on this mini, what we're going to be doing is, because we're aiming to do it quick and nasty, we're going to be using, first off, GUILLIMAN flesh. And we're going to give we're going to give the entire model a coat of this, but we're going to do it quickly because I want to blend it with another contrast colour while this one is still damp. So GUILLIMAN flesh is going to give us this creepy sort of skin tone all over it. So let's have a look here and let's just see what it does over our grey seer base. It's going to be as quick and nasty as possible on this because I really want to demonstrate this sort of blending of contrast paints here, and I want to blend it in a modelled sort of way. I want the material to look inconsistent in its own right. And I know I'm going over stuff that is the likes of, that it's cloth and stuff like that, but the idea here is to mix the colours while they're still wet on the miniature, and then later on, or once this step is done, we'll go in and tidy up some stuff, or what my head is saying is do a dry brush of wraithbone. So we'll see how that looks, but I'm going to try and get the GUILLIMAN flesh down first, because it's going to be the base from which I'm going to blend a little bit with another colour, just to try and give it that sort of creepy sort of look. And I want it to look creepy and I want it to look weird, because it's a weird looking miniature, so it needs a colour scheme or a coloration that matches that sort of otherworldly sort of look to it. I'm being very liberal with the contrast paint, by the way, if you haven't noticed. I am being very heavy with it, and that's where contrast paint really likes to be. It likes to be in that sort of heavy, over-the-top sort of application. So don't shoot me, or you know, for going completely mental and completely losing all the decorum I've built up as a painter over the years. I'm just going to slap this on and just see what happens, and then we'll quickly try and blend it before it gets too dry. So let's keep going here, or we'll just carry it over the whole thing. I know there's cloth detail and stuff, but we'll be picking that out later. So let's give the shield another run just to make sure its surface is still wet. Okay, so quickly rinse my brush. While that's still wet, we're going to start modelling on some MAGOS purple. This is the thinner of the two purple colours, and all I'm wanting to do here is just dab all over it. I don't mind if it gets into the contours a bit weirdly or anything like that. I don't want it to look, the idea behind this is I don't want it to just look like a flesh sort of a colour. I want it to have another tone in there that plays with the flesh colour a little bit. So I'm going to let it build up, apply it heavily in big blotches, let it gather itself together, mix with the GUILLIMAN flesh a bit, and then hopefully Oh, I actually kind of like the inside of the shield being a bit more purpley as well. That's kind of cool. Now obviously this is going to take quite a while to dry, so we are going to have to leave it for that length of time. Probably a good 45 minutes to an hour. But that's fine, because if you're working on a large batch of these, if you've got a couple of boxes of them and you're building away at them, then what you do is you prime or you undercoat your first set, chuck this contrast paint down on that set, and then go ahead and start spraying up your next set. And by the time you're done with that and it's ready for its contrast paint, then the first batch, which will be this batch, should be dry and should be ready to go with your next step. So that is going to pull down there. I'm not going to worry too much about that. So we're going to let that dry, and when we come back, we'll see what it looks like, see if the modeling ideas worked, or maybe we could add in another color or something like that, and then we'll look at what our next step will be. With the contrast paints all dry, what we're going to be moving on to now is giving the model a dry brush, and we're going to be moving with Wraithbone, dry brushing with Wraithbone. We're not moving with Wraithbone. And I'm using a nice big dry brush for this. This is going to be kind of an overbrush, so we're not removing all the paint off the brush that we would be for a regular dry brush. So let me see if that looks about right. And we're just going to dry brush, or we're just going to brush over the entire miniature. And what this is going to do is set us up for the next layer of contrast paint that I want to use. And what I like about Wraithbone is just how bright it is. It's lovely looking, and it's going down over this contrast paint really well. You could almost leave it at that, really. But I don't think we'll cheapen out that quick. We still want the miniature to look, pretty effective for the amount of work that we're putting in. So, but what this does is brighten up areas that are not going to be this bone color, but it does sort of base coat those areas for our subsequent steps. So we're going to move on to some skeleton horde, and we're going to give the areas that are definitely the bonish sort of armor a thin coat of this. We don't want to do the same thing that we've just done. We want it to be a bit thinner, make it more of a layer of the contrast paint. So for example here, we're just going to swipe it down over all of that area, and you can see that the Wraithbone really picks that up and gives it that sort of more of a bony, sort of a yellowy-ish kind of a tone. So I think most of this is going to be around his face here, around his shoulders and backs, because there's areas that are definitely more cloth, and I don't necessarily want to go over that. Not that it's going to matter so much, because the way we're approaching this with the contrast method is basically do all your light details, then do all the dark details. And the dark details are obviously not going to be affected too much by whatever I do on the light detail. With the Skeleton Horde Dry, we're going to be putting a dry brush down of PRAXETI White, and this is just to go over again the areas that we've just basically done with our lighter contrast paint. And this is to give us a more sort of a pale finish, a bit of a brighter finish. So with the dry brush done, we're going to move on to working on the cloth material that the guy has. And for this we're going to be using Contrast GRYPH Charger Grey, and this is just going to be a case of painting this in. So there's not a lot of effort required on that. We just basically pick out the areas that we want to have as the cloth detail, and then we just paint it in. So this contrast paint may be a little thin for this application, so let's try it first. It might be a bit too thin. Yeah, it's absolutely too thin. So with that not working, let's try something else. So let's try some Space Wolves Grey. I think this is a heavier contrast paint, and we can use the GRYPH Charger Grey to help shade it once it's down. So let's have a look and see what happens here. I'm pretty sure this is a heavier pigmented one, I think. Yeah, that's better. So we'll put this, maybe a couple of coats of it over every piece of cloth, and then we'll have a look at it and see what we need to do next. So with the 2 layers, I basically did put down 2 layers of the Space Wolves Grey. With that done and dry, I gave it a bit of black paint on the base and a little bit of matte varnish through the airbrush. And that is basically it, guys. For a drone, for your army, I think that is a pretty quick and effective colour scheme using 4 contrast paints, 2 dry brushes and a little bit of matte varnish. And I don't think that's turned out too badly at all. Particularly if you're going to be doing, you know, maybe 20, 30 plus of these guys. You know, I don't know how big the armies are going to be. But anyway, I do hope you've enjoyed this one. Very quick, very punchy. Of course, there's plenty of room for, if you want to revisit an army after doing something this quick, you certainly can do that. You can go back in, do some more highlighting, pick out some other colours or whatever you want to do. But for a quick contrast focused model, I think in a unit, in a regiment of this, all lined up, all looking the same, would be very cool looking on the table, and I think anyone would be happy to see that being placed down in front of them when you're looking for a game. Anyway, as always guys, thank you so much for watching. Please put your comments down below, and until next time, stay safe and see you again soon.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now, and while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.